You are now listening to Femme podcast with Tessa Markle
and Carolina Alvarez.
Femme.
Hey, fam, it's your girls, Tessa and Carolina.
Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the season so far because we just keep finding the best guests, and it's really thanks to our amazing community. So shout out to you guys. Thanks for just supporting us because it keeps us going and keeps us connecting. And that's what we're all about, is finding those like-minded individuals who care about the independent filmmaker and what we have to navigate through.
Absolutely.
So Tessa, why don't you tell our fam what amazing guest we have on today?
So today we have Sana Soni, who is head of distribution and sales for Giant Pictures. And we met her through our friend Mikhail Chowdhury, who has sent us so many amazing people. If you haven't listened to his episode a couple of seasons ago, I highly recommend. But Sana had previously worked with Warner Brothers, Signature, Chicken Soup for the Soul, amongst many others. And she is a leading expert in distribution and marketing. And we talk a lot with her today about what does that look like? What are the differences between, a sales agent and a distributor and acquisitions, and what does everybody do? And what do you as the filmmaker have to look out for? What questions do you have to answer for yourself and your film before you get to that point and to be successful with that point?
Yeah, because as Tessa just rambled off maybe to a lot of you a mumbo jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
That mumbo jumbo begins with you asking yourself where you see your film, where you want it to land. And we might sound like a broken record by now because we've mentioned this a couple times, but that's really what helps you start to navigate through all these distribution options, because there are so many, and there are so many that are going to be unique to your film and what you want out of it. So I love the questions that Sana just kind of springs off in each kind of phase. And this is one to definitely maybe take out your notepad and pen and jot down some of these questions to ask yourself if you're working towards your next project and see distribution as an avenue. And again, that looks like different. It could be one where you're just doing the film festival circuit and you don't care about making money. That's fine. It's just good to take a moment and ask yourself where you see it going and what you want out of the end, because it's a journey, y'all. We know that. And you're probably have an idea or should have an idea of where you want to see this thing that you slaved for so long go, right? So I love the questions she brings up, and I just think you guys are really going to take so many good takeaways from this. So definitely take some notes.
Yes. And hopefully she, demystifies a few things for you too. Because yes, it's a lot to take in, but it's really not that complicated at the end of the day. Once you start to understand how the process works, it all makes sense. I promise.
We promise. It all does.
So without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Sana Soni.
How did I wind up in this position? I was growing up in Europe, not to go too far back, sorry. I'm not going to go back to the day I was born, but I am going to go back to when I was 16. I was growing up in Europe, and I went to a summer camp at the New York Film Academy in London. And that was only a week long, but I was hooked from then. It was a filmmaking camp. And then after that, I was like, I have to go to LA. I have to make it in the movies. And of course, no one knows at that age what that's going to be. And then was extremely privileged and lucky enough to go to UCLA. I didn't major in film in the end, because it's a very tiny pool of students that gets in. But I did lead up a film club. I did attend all the screenings, all the panels, all the events, whatever I could to just meet people, because I kept hearing the same thing about who and relationships, which we've all heard at this point. And it's true. It's not everything, but it is a huge part of it, So I met lots of people that way. And then I still talk to them all these years later. And then just kind of stumbled around after that, as one does after university. You just kind of try your hand at different things. Had to move to London because I'm a European citizen. So my student visa was going to run out, and actually renewing your status to get a work visa in the US is way easier said than done, because you have to be so specialized in a certain, I'm sure you guys know, Tessa's nodding, that you have to be so specialized in a certain kind of skill set that you have to prove to the government that like there's no one in the US who's an American
Right.
citizen
And
who can do
especially
this
in this
job.
industry, it's like
So
jobs are so uncertain anyway. So that makes it even harder.
yes, especially right now. And also, when you're like 22 and an
Mhm.
assistant in LA, unfortunately, there are so many people out there who can also do that job. I hate to say, like, and so it was really difficult. So I was like, fine, you don't want me, I'm going back to Europe. But of course, London was amazing. My whole family ended up being there. I met my husband. Um, and I continued to kind of look around at jobs. I knew that I wanted to be on the business
Mhm.
side of things because I had done film sets, I had done shorts, I had done production, and those were fun. And those people I still talk to today, and I loved you. I don't need to tell you, but the
Yeah.
bond that you get even after 2 days of production, like
I
I
know,
don't
it's
even
so
know.
sad. You're like,
You
"This is
guys like,
it?" We've become family within, like, 1 day of
yes,
being on set. Yeah.
it struck me. I was like, so when people are on set for days or weeks, like, or months, are they just like joined at the hip at that point? Because like this was 2 days for me, and I still
It's
talk to
like
these
going
guys.
to war, like with
Like
someone. You're just,
seriously,
like you go through this
yeah,
experience together and it's like the highs and lows and just, yeah, you're bonded.
you're bonded for life. And so, and much as I loved all that, it wasn't quite like for me. I could sense that it just kind of somehow wasn't like a natural fit, and that I was more of the producer. I was more the business mind behind it. And but I loved being close to and next to the artists and the people who make that magic happen. I just wanted to like be there and facilitate and like support and lift them up, and that's what made me really really happy. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I need an office job. So in London I also bounced around. I got a lot of temp jobs at the time. That's what kind of was on offer at like National Geographic TV, like helping them with their contracts when they sell the rights to a TV show to air somewhere in Germany,
Wow.
just to like help them with the contract. Yeah, it was like this is not what I have in mind, but I
Learning
am
Yeah.
learning a
something.
lot.
Yeah.
I'm learning. And then there was a lot of 2 weeks at like Sony helping figure out like all the different cable viewers, like how many viewers there had been and whether they'd been charged
Yeah.
correctly. Like and I can go into all that. That was a long time ago. And finally landed at Warner Brothers. And that was 4 years of very good education in terms of sales for TV rights. And so a lot of these jobs were in TV rights. And then I got tired of the big studio life, and it's like 8,000 people in Warner. And now
Yeah.
it's even bigger with their merger with Discovery.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
huge. My sister was also in London working for small teams and public policy, and I really envied that. So I was like, I'm leaving this, and I'm going to find myself a small team, and I did. It just took me ages to like break in to the independent
Mhm.
film world in London because it's you go to university there just like you do in LA, then you kind of have an in, but I didn't.
Mm.
So eventually found a job at Signature Entertainment, and was there for 3 years and kind of cut my teeth there, like learning everything to do with independent
Okay.
film distribution. And of course, I can go into what all that means, but it was 15 of us at the time. That team is
Wow.
much bigger now, like more than doubled, but there was 15 of us all in one big room. We had the best time. I heard about everything that was happening. I learned about everything. I also still talk to those guys every day. Yes,
Oh
every
my
day.
gosh.
Um, and I, went to each other's weddings, etc. I learned so much about just independent films, anything that's not being distributed by a studio, that doesn't have thousands and thousands of dollars of a budget in
Mhm.
terms of marketing. That's most likely not going to go into theaters. That's you're not going to be able to see posters of, most likely, like
Right.
huge posters of on
Mhm.
Sunset. All these kinds of movies that sometimes go straight to DVD.
Mhm.
I joined when there was still a huge DVD business. And now there's obviously less so. These movies that went straight to Netflix, the movies that went straight to Hulu, etc. And so those were so many of them were just so good
Mhm.
too. It's like amazing movies, hidden gems. But most importantly, I learned about the distribution windows and how movies
Mhm.
make their money once they're out. And again, that's a whole thing. Um, and then my husband had a job in DC, so we moved out here. And that's where I am now. That was 2, 3 years ago. And since then, I've been working for distribution companies that are very similar to that, but here based out of New York.
Oh, nice.
And so currently it's Giant Pictures, also a very small team, and we put out lots and lots of independent films. A lot of them are documentaries, a lot of them are cult horrors, a lot of them are from specialty film production companies like
Mhm.
Participant, or they have all, movies that have been at Tribeca. So some are very, very critically acclaimed like that. But it's been that is what gets me
Mhm.
excited, is being able to work on these really good
Yeah.
movies, helping them get out to an audience, helping them connect to a specific audience, helping position them in the market, and helping them just get out as much as possible to earn as much money as possible, which sounds very mercenary, but then it
Right.
helps everyone. And ideally, well, most of it goes back to the filmmaker so that they're then able to put that money back into their
Mhm.
next movie, and make a living. So that's kind of in a quick nutshell, like what my job is, but I can go into that
Yeah, I mean, I
more.
would love to hear more about, like, I know Carolina and I have been learning a lot about distribution in the past like year or so. So it was kind of a crash course for us, just learning what we were going to have to know eventually for our film. And, going into it with the mind of like, we're creating this film for us, really, like ultimately, and we'd love to get as many eyes on it as we can. But like, attempting distribution, and if we don't really make any money off of it, that's okay. Like, we already went into it with that mindset, but still wanting to know as much as we could so
Good.
we could, give it the best try that we could. So if you could kind of just give like a little bit of a breakdown of, you told us a little bit specifically about what you do and how that's different from other aspects of distribution, like sales versus distribution versus acquisition, all that sort of thing. But I guess what I'm curious is, how much does your company, Giant Pictures, actually like include, I guess? And then also, yeah, you had mentioned windowing and just kind of like what that means for our listeners who may not be familiar with those sort of terms.
I'm not sure what you meant by what does it include. Well, no, actually, I think I understand it. Okay, so kind of to start from the beginning, as a distribution company, you go out and find movies that need distribution, right? Filmmakers who don't know how to get to their audience. In a really, really simple nutshell. You take on the rights of those movies, whether for the world or for specific territories. Then you go about the business of putting it up around into places where people can go see it, whether that's on DVD, on in theaters, on iTunes for rental, um, pitching it to Netflix if they want to have it on their service, so that um, for 2 years or 3 years, whatever, it's available on Netflix and viewers can see it there. There's so much that goes into that. Everything from technical stuff, like speaking to the filmmakers about making sure that you have your trailers and your films and your um, stills and everything in the right format and the right specs, and all the legal stuff. Onboarding the film, getting those assets that I just talked about, ingested into your own servers. Then, and I can't even imagine what people used to do before everything was digital. I mean, like, you had to get things
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
Then figuring out the distribution strategy for that movie. Like, okay, when do we want to put it out? When in the year is a good time? Should we think about what else is going on around that time? If it's a romance, obviously, Valentine's Day is a great time to put it out. Um, but Valentine's Day is 8 months away. That's way too far. We don't want to be sitting on the movie that
Mm.
long. So whatever. Then figuring out. Some companies do this more than we do. Taking the title of the movie and being like, could this be changed? Could
Mhm.
this be better potentially to help audiences connect with it easier? And the art is a big one that often gets changed. Art, I mean the poster, basically the main piece of the image, right? The sheet that um, the people will see, the audience, the just people in the public will be seeing when they are scrolling past 100 different movies on Google Movies, on YouTube, on Tubi, on all these other platforms. There's so many that
Right.
exist. And when you have a movie like we do, which usually does not have a big star, does not have awareness around it for many reasons, mostly because we're we're not at the level where we're spending whatever tons of money on getting the marketing so that these movies are blasted out there in a huge way and not in like your social media feeds and your bus, the sides of your bus, etc. Then just we have to end up relying a lot on the title of the movie and the little art and making sure that that hooks the audience member and the easiest way to do that I always say is to make it obvious. Great, just make it as hit people over the head with what this movie is because they're going to need it. They're not going to be able to divine this out of nowhere. If it's just a person's face, just a face, that's not enough to tell a viewer like what's this movie really about. And unless that face, I hate to say, is super famous and that person is a fan, so they'll want to watch that because they like that person or that actor. So that's the positioning of the movie, and then getting the movie out there, making sure that it is pitched to and put into the correct line of processing that needs to happen in order for a movie to be uploaded on release day to iTunes, to Microsoft Store, to Google Store, to cable platforms. There's a lot that goes into that. Then making sure that those assets I talked about are then sent outwards to those platforms so that those platforms have something to put up. They have the right art to put up. They have the right trailer. They have the right movie, obviously. And they have the right information about it so that the director's name isn't misspelled or whatever. All of that. And then making sure that the movie is being merchandised, which means that once you go onto that platform, that it's not kind of buried in there. Hopefully it's being pushed to the front in the newly released carousel or the out this week room or up in a banner that's kind of rotating on top, whatever. And then keeping track of it, making sure that it's getting that good merchandising, and then making sure that the money is coming in based on the views, whoever's renting and buying. And while that's happening, you're also going out to these subscription platforms, Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max. These guys are the obvious big ones, but there's so many other smaller ones. Shudder is a big one for horror, as you guys know. Curiosity Stream, Mubi, so many out there. Some are very specialty and some are more generic. And having a relationship with the people who buy at these streaming platforms, knowing what is it that they want, and coming up with lists of movies like, here's what we think you'd be interested in. And then closing those deals. Unlike the previous window that I talked about, the transactional window, the buying and renting, that's very cut and dry. It's like, here's what we got coming out. Okay, cool. We'll take these ones. Cool. They come out in December. Done. It's December. They're out. With these subscription platforms, which is usually the pay one window, which is the next window in the windowing stuff I was talking about, that's a more involved discussion of okay, well, do you want it for a year or 2 years? Oh, if you want it for 2 years, you want it for North America only, not for the world. Okay. Here, and then they might pay up front for it. Or we might make a deal where based on the views, they pay depending on how many views it's had after the fact. And I'm sorry if this is getting
this is amazing.
This is really great information. I mean, it's I know for us, like I said, we've done a little bit of research. This is all tracking. It's okay, yes, I have heard this, whatever. But for when we first started learning, I was so whoa, this is way too much for me to understand. But the more you hear it and the more you get into it, it definitely makes more and more sense. So this is super helpful for us. So any listeners, if you're feeling overwhelmed, I swear, listen now and go listen again later and it'll start making sense.
Yeah. And we've had a distribution episode where we talked about the different AVOD, TVOD, SOVOD. We've had discussions. So fam, if you're getting also what are these different windows, tune back to that episode too. Again, we're not experts and that's why we love bringing on the experts to keep talking about it, because it can definitely be overwhelming. But no, this totally makes sense. There's these different windows that filmmakers can sell to, or different ways for them to retain money from their work. And you got to see, and that's what's great about working with the distribution company, because you are beautifully explaining how that you guys are experts. You have those relationships that not everyone just has, and the knowledge behind what the client is looking for. And so that's really cool. And I can see why you're very excited to help independent filmmakers when you're so excited yourself about the work and the project.
Yes, it's and it is, and it feels like cheating to say like I'm an expert. It's just like my job, right? It's what I do all day, every day, 5 days a week. So it feels like second nature to me, but it didn't always. It took a few years to really get my head around all of it, because you have to add in everything else. You have to add in different countries and how they work. I started off in the UK, and in some ways, the way they do things is a bit different. And then you're talking about, are we talking new movies? Are we talking old movies that have been out for decades? Are we talking about movies that are in the English language? If you're living in a country that is that also speaks English, are you talking about a Korean movie? Okay, well, a Korean movie, how is that going to work in a English speaking country? There's so many different little factors and little aspects that I'm kind of glossing over, obviously, for the sake of simplicity. And actually, unfortunately, there's more. Or no, fortunately, after it's been on a subscription SVOD service, we've talked about TVOD, the transactional buyer rent. Now I've moved on to subscription SVOD. This is generally how it goes. It's not always this like simple, but generally, hopefully after that first pay window, you might be lucky enough to get another. You might have somebody else knocking on your door and saying like, but I'll take the next one. And when they say they'll take it, it can mean this territory or that territory. It can be for this much money or that much money. It can be exclusively or non-exclusively. So if they're taking it non-exclusively, then you're still free to go take it around to other people in the same territory. And then once that is over, or while it's up but it's not exclusive, that's when the AVOD window can start. So I have I have a lot of experience in the AVOD window. It's growing. It's huge for independent film. I'm a big evangelist for the AVOD window in general, because it's really growing. I always joke about it being the ugly cousin that like grew up to be hot. So because suddenly for independent film, there's so much money you can make there, because this window is where your movie can make it onto everything from YouTube to Pluto, Tubi, Roku channel, etc. And a viewer can just log right on to these on their browser or on their smart TV or app on their phone, and not even put in their email address or credit card, and just watch. Whether that's like pressing something from the beginning and watching it, and then you have to sit through ads. That's the catch, right? Whether that's watching it from the beginning, or in the case of something like Pluto, and other people are doing it a lot more too now, channels that are just running for 24 hours, and you just pick one and you'll land in the middle of a movie or a TV show. So, and that all of the above is AVOD, or advertising video on demand. So then the platform will, take the money that they made off of the ads and get split half with us. So it's so many different ways of making money. And then there's really no limit to how long the movie can be on these AVOD platforms. It's however long we have the rights to the movie to, right? Or however long we have a deal with that platform for. So, and in the meantime, you might still have theaters coming to you saying like, we'd like to screen this for a night, or we might do a DVD run, or somebody else comes along. The movie has a very niche topic, and there's a SVOD platform out there that deals in that very specific niche topic. So they want the rights to the movie for 6 months or a year. So managing all of that. And then when you think about the hundreds of movies, and in my previous job, the thousands of movies that you have the rights to, it's a lot. So to stay on top of it all, you need
Mhm.
technology, right? Databases that you can rely on, that you have to keep up. You have to like make sure that you included the runtime of that movie, because when you put it on the Roku channel, they have a little column on their spreadsheet that says
Yeah.
how long is the movie, and we want it in minutes. So you have to like convert it minutes, do that for 200 movies in one go. Like this is just what takes up the entire day, just the
Yeah.
day to day of
Right.
it. Um, but at least what we're working on is movies or TV shows. And these are beautiful things that people have poured their lives and their sweat and their tears into, and years of their work, their lives, and trying to do our best to just give those
Mhm.
things justice. And as somebody who has made films before, I get it, that I get what it was like to put all that
Yeah.
work into it, how that's your baby. So I did not like some various jobs I've had in the past where it really just turned into like a line on a spreadsheet. Like, yeah, it's just commodity, it's a product. And I hate the term product, and I'm trying to not use the word content as well, even though it's like a
Right.
catch-all um, for TV, shorts, web
Yeah.
series, TV series, movie, whatever, documentaries. But it trying to keep things, remember that they're individual, special items that,
Yeah.
yeah, anyway.
No, those are, to me, those are the kind of people that I look to like bond together with in business. It's like you really are, you care about, like I have certain coworkers too that in my world we handle all those assets, and I like I get that side of things, and it's
Yeah,
just I love the way we can like look at reels and understand that it came from film back in the day, and how it's like, back when you had the literally reels of film, and they've like in a way taught me the romance, besides now everything's so digital that it's like, okay, we're still looking at reels, which is cool, but it's not like from what it was back then, and how like it's still we still pay homage to that respect. Like we still are, following SEMPTI
yeah,
standards and all these wonderful things. So I think it's really cool that you also have that. Not everyone though in my, not everyone in any kind of film industry has set a day, like had a day on set, like stepped foot on set and have seen what it takes. So that is really awesome
yeah,
that you
yeah.
empathize with us, because it's not for everyone, and it is a beast.
It's
It
not
is.
easy. It's a beast, and frankly, it's unfair because you're not getting the rights and pay that you deserve, in many cases, or in the worst case scenario, it's dangerous, which it
Mhm.
should never be. It's a
Mhm.
workplace. So it's something I really, really respect and wish I could do, because, ultimately I have the greatest memories of having been on set, but it just kind of just wasn't like
Yeah.
working for me, which is fine. Which is fine. I love the idea of just bringing extremely talented, amazing people together to make
Yeah.
things or to help get their final product. In this case, I'm using the word product differently,
Yeah.
in getting their final product out there as widely as possible in the way, hopefully, that honors what the
Mhm.
filmmaker wants. And that itself can also be quite complicated because it's not just one person who's made the movie. Um,
Right.
and it's also difficult sometimes to agree on what is the best way to
Mhm.
get the movie out there. That's or what is the best way to position it? What's the best thing to call it? When is the right time to put it out? So that all can get it is difficult, but it's art, so it's always going
Yeah.
to be
Right.
subjective.
Right.
Um, yeah, and going back real quick to what Tessa was saying regarding like you guys have the feature you're working on, and you're not exactly planning on making like tons and tons of money off of it. That's really good that you have a vision and a focus on like this is what we want out of the movie. You're not under
Mhm.
any illusion that or maybe illusion is not the right word. You're not exactly just sitting there thinking it's going to be great. Vaguely it's
Right.
going to be great. You want to have the focus, you want to have the exact um idea of what it is that you're going after, And because there's so many different end games to when you make a movie,
Exactly.
and there's so many different,
No,
yeah, exactly. You guys,
thanks for bringing that up, Sana, and just for our audience to like hear more of that too, and they might feel the same. For us, sync is like a really good way to, in a larger sense, show a larger body of what we can do, me and
Mhm.
Tessa, of what we've written and worked for. And we know that it's a huge achievement in itself. And we can tell with how much work we've put into it that like just having the script in the best place possible is one, victory and feat after the next. So for us to then have it made is just that is the ultimate goal, is just having that solid piece of work done. But we've learned that you have to think of distribution and what does that mean to you in the stage of your
yes.
career. And for us is we would love and are aiming to get this in some really solid film festivals so we can to at least have recognition that we've made it. We want the community to celebrate the people that it speaks to, and because we
Mhm.
question a lot of different things in the film, and that's what we're excited about most. And then we would love to pitch it to other distributors or people that could then later on maybe help us further. But we're being realistic too that
Mhm.
this is our first thing, and we just want to be able to be in a good place to position us to make the next film that we can continue to grow. Because that's correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of how it goes. Like you got to kind of start to build
It
and build.
is.
So just creating, I mean, you've worked with various filmmakers and seen work. Is there something that, from where we're positioning ourselves, if we were to land in those festivals per se, is it after that point that we could then maybe, again, in my line of thinking, continue to have conversations? And we're trying to still have conversations because it doesn't hurt. Um,
Oh no,
but
not at
like,
all.
yeah, I think other filmmakers probably in the same position, making their first or second feature. They're aiming to get the film festival circuit. Is that what then makes
Mhm.
their work attractive to distributors like yourselves that could be like, okay, yeah, I'm they're getting that recognition. Like you've mentioned, your company loves to take work from those
Mhm.
top tier festivals. That's kind of what attracts you guys as well. It speaks to you is when you've seen a couple of these films go through that circuit and really, you know, get more than just an
Yeah,
accolade. I don't want to say that, but it's like they've really pushed through that.
absolutely. It's some distributors will look to festivals, will look to specific festivals, will have relationships with them, will use them for finding the cool new movies. Some distributors can't really afford to attend them. Some don't care really if it's been in a festival, like if it's a commercial enough movie, that's all we're looking for. So all of this exists. There's no right or wrong. It's just however you do your business. Um, so if you are a filmmaker who if it all kind of goes back to what you want. So having a very, very specific idea of what you want is the number one thing that's going to help. So for example, using you guys
Please.
as an example, you have a specific movie, you want to get it into festivals, and you said the reason why is because you want to connect to your audiences. So is the idea to connect with festivals that show movies with the exact same genre or like the niche genre that you're going to be making a movie in? And is that really it? And being really brutally honest with yourself. Because if you came out the other end having been to the top X genre festivals and you spoke with the audience members and they came to you, for example, best case scenario, they said, I loved your movie. Thank you for making it. It really spoke to me. At the end of that, is that all you want? Is that it? Or, did you also secretly want the movie to win awards? Did you also want it to get distribution? Did you want it to have a DVD run because that's something that's for whatever reason really special to you? Did you want it to have a red carpet premiere because you just always wanted to have that? Or did you just want to make a ton of money? And did those things happen? And if no, that's fine. you're not going to get what you want always, but did you work hard towards that goal? Because if you, let's say all you want is to make a ton of money from it, if you make a difficult to digest experimental art film, you want to make money, but you also want to connect to the audience. You could connect to the audience, but ultimately you may not make a lot of money because it's not a very
Right.
commercial
Understood.
genre, or
Absolutely.
not a thematically type. So if you are, again, brutally honest with yourself about what it is that you want, and when you want a distributor, is it because you want to make those relationships so you can bring your next movie to them? Is it because you want them to make a ton of money for you so you can put that money into your next movie? Is it so that you can establish yourself as a mover and shaker in the industry? We know like very specific things. And of course, when you're at the start of that journey, it's not quite so simple. You can't see all the different paths in front of you very clearly and know, okay, well, I want to do 90% this path, 10% that one. It's not quite that simple. So hopefully this is demystifying it a little bit. But whatever it is that, you're dreaming of, just knowing what that is and then going for that. Because if your aim is just to make a lot of money, festivals may not be the most important thing for you. You may end up, in fact, spending a lot of money submitting to, attending, spending a lot of time on getting these movies into festivals, and in the end, not get the financial reward that you were looking for.
Right.
So,
No,
yeah.
those are great questions. I love that you outlined it like that, because I think a lot of times it's hard to look outside yourself, and like your wants and your dreams and your desires, they get all melded together. I mean, at the end of the day, girl, I want it
Yes.
all. Like, let's go. Who
Of
doesn't?
course. And
Like,
again, you're a team. It's not 3 people or one
Right.
person
Yeah.
make the movie. Everybody else might want a different thing. And to just to kind of, collaborate and then figure out what it is that you want as a team. Man, I don't know. I'm super impressed that people even got together to make a movie to begin with. So being all aligned on that goal, that sounds so difficult to me, but I know people do it every day. But yeah, so having all of those plans in mind, and then the next best thing I always say is once you've figured out what it is that you really want, find a movie that's out there that's similar to yours, whether that's in budget or in genre or with the same actor in it, or even if it has nothing similar, maybe the path that it took to distribution or how it got out there. Okay, it played at Sundance, and then it played at a little festival called X, and then it was at a festival called Y, and then through this company, it came out on DVD, and on that company, it came out on educational streaming platforms. That's the path I want to follow. And try to emulate it as much as possible by talking to the filmmakers if you don't know them. Most cases, filmmakers are kind of happy to talk to you, talk to, if possible, the distribution company or the production company or the sales agent, whoever it was involved in the getting the movies out there, or getting that movie out there, and just trying to copy it step by step, because even when you try to copy it, you're never going to copy the exact same thing. But if it's been out there and you liked that path and you want to replicate it, it's right there for you to emulate. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's one thing I definitely
I think
That's
that's really
great
smart.
advice.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that we're as filmmakers encouraged a lot of times to, find comparables in a way that's like presenting to people, to presenting to producers, presenting to investors, whatever. So, you're really just thinking about like, are they similar in budget? Are they similar in genre? Whatever. But I think this is really important. What you're saying is finding comparables that you can actually emulate their path, and you can talk to the filmmaker about how did they get this, or how did they get to this point, and why did they choose this way and stuff. So I think that's really smart.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's and ultimately, like I said, you're still never going to emulate it 100% because your movie's different, the time is different, everything is different. But at least there is a path out there that somebody has done successfully that you can copy or you can attempt to copy. Because there's no point in reinventing the wheel, especially when in such a volatile and strange world that we're in, this independent film distribution world. So you may as well, if you see something that's worked, like go for that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to kind of taking all this and going back a little bit as well, that I've been noticing even just as recently as I've started understanding just distribution at all, is how popular the AVOD platform is, especially for independent filmmakers, because I feel like not that long ago, it was kind of like not really taken seriously. It was like, oh, you don't want to put your film on YouTube. It's like, well, if I can put it up there and have it seen by millions of people and make some money off of it, what's wrong with that? So I do think it's very interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you have to come to peace with that, right? So if you have a personal just abhorrence with it being on YouTube or being available for free, then don't do that, right? But like that's sort of your choice. But if you want it to just reach a million people, hopefully, and have the chance at actually making a lot of money, then you can put it on these platforms. You could find a way to get it up on there, and you could achieve some of those goals that you have.
Yeah.
But having that whole plan in front of you is very important too. Like, what's my next step after this? Is it to leave this business with a lot of money in my pocket? Or just to take whatever money I've made and put it into the next project? Or it's not about the money. I just really, really want to change the public's viewpoint on this one very specific topic that's very important to me. That's, for example, that's like social impact filmmaking. And I'm so grateful that is much more of a thing in the last few years than it was in the past. And there's entire companies built to support those kinds of films, to produce them and to get them out there. And they're the ones going out and doing screenings for Congress people or at libraries or at universities, etc. So that exists too. It's really difficult, of course, as we all know, but it does exist.
I do want to touch back because you've brought it up now twice, and I think it does resonate with kind of our plan. Is like, I think we would be option B. It's like we would love if we do land the distribution deal after like going through the film festival circuit and that whole process. It would be to make the money that we do make is just to go back into the next film like that. We've been very transparent. We're not paying ourselves out of like a cent out of the budget that we have. That's just for our crew and what it takes to make this film. Like nothing goes to us. And I think if we make that money for the film, it is 1000%. Doesn't, we don't even agree. It is like, just go to the next thing for us to keep going. And that being said, is from your outlook on these different window options, I just want to reiterate, is it's AVOD kind of the best route for someone like us after, or is it still we have to continue to kind of shop around and see what would help us get there? I'm not sure if that question's clear, but that's kind of...
Well, I think your goal should just be to meet with the right distributor who gets your movie, who has put out movies similar to yours before and has hopefully achieved the same kind of success that you want for your movie. Some distributors will continue to do the festival circuit. So they'll like put your movies into more festivals. And maybe they think that that's the best way forward for that movie for various reasons. That could be one thing. Or that this distributor you've seen through friends, through contacts, through doing a lot of digging online, seems to have a lot of their movies end up on Hulu, and I want my movie up on Hulu. So talking to them and being transparent about it, like, okay, now you've seen my movie, hopefully. Do you think that it has, if I were to go with you guys, do you think it has a chance of being up on Hulu? Because that's very important to me for whatever reason. Speaking to people who you kind of connect with. And sometimes, just so you know, there's also the sales agent, the person who comes between you and the distributor, and they represent your movie and they go out to distributors in various territories. So you can have a sales agent that does, for example, just Europe. And so they have a relationship with European distributors, and they are going out and pitching your movie to them. Of course, that's one more person in the whole process, or one more company. And lots of people skip them too, but it might be the right thing for your project. And then, let's see, we're talking about what you should aim for. It's having that frank conversation with your distributor and saying, what's really important to me is my name as a filmmaker. I want, as many places as possible. I want to say a film by my name. Or the most important thing to me is for you to just get it out there, just as much as you can. And that doesn't matter what distribution window that is in. Or it's important to me that you put it out in all distribution windows, that you maximize every opportunity that you have. So, whatever it is that's important to you. And
this is really helpful
obviously
prep, just mentally. No, for real, because sometimes, again, if it's your first time speaking to someone, without that kind of what you're saying gives you the confidence because you've prepped exactly what it is you want. Because a lot of times when you're still so new to this all, it's overwhelming. Those options are so overwhelming. So these are great. Thank you so much. These are really great questions to continue to ask yourself. Like, what is it?
Of course. It's very overwhelming. You don't know what questions to even ask because you don't know what exists. It's like I admire you guys for even just like going for it because it's such a difficult path ahead.
No, it's okay.
We know.
We can
But
do
it's so
anything now.
fulfilling. Been around long enough. You've done shorts and you've spoken to many people, and you've been acting in so many movies. You know it's hard. You know what you're getting yourselves into.
We love it.
But at the same time, because it's fulfilling. Exactly. You do it for a reason because you love it and you believe in it.
Facts.
And we need that. So ultimately, if you have an idea of what it is that you want to accomplish, and not being afraid to speak to the distributors, frankly, and having that discussion with them, but also at the same time understanding that they're experts and they do what they do for a reason, and deferring to them when needed. But having that faith in them, I'm like, okay, but I'm going to give my movie, put it in your hands, and I hope that you are going to do the best by it that you can.
I love that you said that, and totally fine if you don't. I know you don't want to be in a position to speak negatively about anything, not anything, but any of your past experiences with working at different companies. But it sounds like you've had great track record with those companies and how awesome they're there to support the creators. But any red flags that you would know from just other people outside of where you've worked that filmmakers could look out for? Because I'm sure there are some that will take advantage of especially novice filmmakers that don't know what they're getting themselves into all the time. Is there something, just red flags or stuff to look out for?
There's a lot of communities, filmmaker communities, Facebook groups, Reddit groups, I'm sure, and of course, living in LA, it's easier to meet folks like that too. To just get out there and hear the word on the street, as we say, right? Ask around. People will share. People are happy to tell you good and bad reviews. True. People, you can, because you're in this together, you and your other filmmaker community. Everyone in your filmmaker community, and they will want to share this information with you. And there's no point for any filmmaker who's had a good experience with a distributor to keep that to themselves. There's really no reason that would help them out more. It may as well share that information or share the bad news. Like, this distributor took a very long time to pay us back because the movie went on to earn X amount of money on so and so platform, and we know it can take months for the money to flow through backwards to us. But it's been 2 years and we haven't been paid. Or this distributor, they as people, they were just rude, or they didn't seem to respect us and our movie, whatever it is. And also understanding that distributors are humans as well, and that just like a movie, a distributor is a group of people, most likely, and that you might be dealing with one person maybe you don't love or you do love, and that person may leave. So and somebody else might come in to
Right.
take their job. So there's so much nuance there as well. So it's not just like a product that you're reviewing on Amazon that's hopefully always going to be the exact same no matter who orders it, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of that, and also just doing your due diligence, going to their website, looking the people up on LinkedIn and seeing, learning just what kind of people
Right.
are they, listening to some of them, have done podcast interviews or panels at film festivals. Some of these things are online. And finally, to attend. This, I will caveat this by saying, if you are the filmmaker or the director, you may not have time to do all this, and that's totally fine. You need like that producer by your side, who does have the time to do this, who has some experience in this, hopefully, or is willing to learn. And that producer's job is not making the art side of the movie, in my opinion, because the director or the lead creatives need to focus on the actual making of it, the emotion behind it, the character development of it, and the producer needs to be free of that to go out and think about the business of it, being like, you make the movie, let me do my best work to get the movie out there in the best way possible. And that producer hopefully has the time, money, wherewithal to go to as many film festivals, markets, events, and get out there and talk to people and build a strong community that they can reach out to with questions, whatever it is, whether that's, hey, this distributor is asking for a trailer file in so-and-so's spec, but I've never heard of that spec. Can you tell me what that is? Or have you heard about this distributor? Or do you really think so-and-so festival is worth it? For me, people you can lean on. And that takes so much time and effort. So the producer, I think, is the person who should be doing that. So
Yeah,
that's
really helpful.
That's
Yeah.
great advice. And like, so it's not out of reach for anyone to really like get their hands on, whether it's, like you said, reaching out to your local communities, Facebook groups, and just tapping into that network, not being afraid to ask and review. And I love that you said it's that simple. Like, people want to like share their good and bad reviews on on their experiences.
Exactly.
Because that's us. Like, whenever we work with someone amazing, we shout them out in every pod. We put them in the newsletter. We're like about it. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah,
That's a really
absolutely.
good point that we could. It's not that difficult to like get the answers.
Yeah.
No, but it does take
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Right. So, and if you're spending all your time making a movie, which you've also got to do, then you're not really going to have
Right.
time for all of that. But I am also a huge fan of going out of your way, if you're that producer or want to become that producer, to attend festivals, if you have the time and money for it, to continuously just meet people, collect cards, or metaphorically collect business cards, and build that huge LinkedIn community. Make a spreadsheet if you have to. I have a spreadsheet of 600 people, like classify them, but have genuinely good relationships with them. Hopefully it'll be easy because they're wonderful people anyway. And keep track of that. Who do you want to work with? What are people good at? What can you ask them about? How can you help them? And could you potentially work or collaborate with some of these people in the future? So that is a huge job unto itself.
Yes, absolutely. But and we always say this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you gotta just love that. You gotta love that part. If you really want to produce, I think that's a great distinction, is you gotta love like meeting people, like and sharing and talking about that. And if you don't have the time and wanna like, we would love, exactly, like having another producer to do things like that. It's like that's a great qualifier too. It's like, are you a social person? Do you like going out there and really putting our work out there? Those are great things to kind of in your interview process or in the way of connecting with others to bring on your team, those are kind of the characteristics that you need to have to hire someone good. Like they need to be able to really champion you, because as a director, writer of your film, like it's easy, like when you're like passionate and you have that emotion. So to find someone in that same, like they get it, that's what you want.
Yes, they get it, and they are going to be that person on the ground for you. If you can't go to the festival, they're there, and they're meeting people. They're collecting. One of the greatest, bits of advice that I receive from people is collecting a list of emails of like people who love your movie and want to know once it's out there because they saw it at a certain festival or screening and they loved it. Keeping that going, that's a whole job on its own too. There's a lot that goes into it, and so it requires that village, that filmmaking village.
Well, shout out our executive producer, Jake Arkey. He's someone who's been doing that too, helping us out, because it's, he was someone, he got hired simply because he read every revision, was always so excited, then started being like, oh, you should talk to this person. Oh, let me connect you with this person. And I was like, okay, wanna come on board? Like, you are awesome.
Yeah.
And he was just like, really? And I'm like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Like, this
is the kind of person you need.
Yes. So I think what you're saying, that's exactly how we've like approached that, because that's what you need to get it done. And it's so exciting. And he's just the best. Shout out to Jake.
Well, thank you so much, Sana, for coming on today and demystifying a lot of stuff for us and really like giving some great advice. And, I think that it just always feels sort of, I don't know if out of reach is the right word, but like, it just seems like there's so much that goes into sales and distribution and marketing that it's like a lot of times for especially first time filmmakers, it just seems so hard to like wrap your head around, but it's really not that complicated when you break it down. And it
it's
helps.
Complicated, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Like you can learn it. You can get familiar with it and tactfully figure out. I love again today how we talked about the different questions to ask yourself, and then you'll start to answer them and figure out what company to work with.
Yeah. After you can answer those questions for yourself, then you can know the right questions to ask a distributor or a sales agent. So
exactly. And it's not going to just come to you. Like, this is just going to like pop up in your head. It's going to take a lot of thinking and meditating and researching and analyzing and reading and researching, and then you might come to some conclusion about what it is that you really want as a team for your film.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say, like, I'm a firm believer. Well, Tessa, I'm gonna include you in this. Like, we believe that when you start that journey, the questions will start to come up even more for you of what to ask, what you're looking for, because you got to start from one place to continue to learn. And that's what we said when we started this podcast. Like, we didn't even know what questions to ask a DP even, or like to ask your AD. Like, we didn't know, but you can't not know if you don't like start that process. So
exactly. Just get to know the person. The questions will come, or if they're like me, they'll just like talk.
Oh, our favorite. She's great on the mic, guys. We are so happy, Sana. You are welcome anytime back.
Oh,
like,
thank
really, you
so
were a fabulous guest to have. We were honored. Like, again, BKO. Shout out. You know the right people.
Damn, bro. And if there's anything that you want to share with our audience, I don't know if you would like them to have your social media or any projects that you'd like to promote, anything like that. And if not, that's okay too.
Well, speaking of Mikhail, the reason why he and I are just like bonded for life is because over the pandemic, I think he must have mentioned it during his interview too, we shot a web series, which was just, oh my goodness, so wonderful to step back into those creative shoes again. Even though, again, I was more the producer person.
Which is still creative on its own. Okay.
It is. But I was reading the script. I was bringing the creative people together. I was heading up the process from the top. And there was ultimately 77 of us from around the world in 8 different countries, 25 different cities who worked on this,
Yeah.
episodic series, the short series. And the third episode turned out so well that we have been taking it around to so many different festivals as a short film called Amy Victoria.
Yes.
Super proud of that. It is we're so proud of that one. And at the end of its festival run, we might either put the series out as a series or combine it into a feature film and kind of think about it from there on, maybe to approach distributors or whatever else. And so that's one thing I want to give a shout out to. The web series is called The Myth of Control. And I am so incredibly proud of what we were able to achieve, especially considering none of us ever met in real life and we did it completely online.
That's incredible.
And that was insane thing that we actually managed to pull off somehow. And I loved that. So I can't wait to get back into producing in the future again, more executive producing probably. But in the meantime, I love what I do. And I love being on the podcast. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.